topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Arizona. Welcome to the Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I got to tell you, this show that we are doing, I got to tell you, it's a show on neuropathy treatment. And we actually started across many of our markets during doing a show like this. We were so lucky to find Dr. Patrick Sars. This topic is a topic that people need to be educated on. And sometimes we're not as lucky. This time we were really lucky to find Dr. Patrick Sars. Is Dr. Patrick Sars with us? Well, there he is. Hi, Dr. Sars. Dr. Sars, I got to tell you, neuropathy, it's become such an important health topic, and a lot of them MDs do not understand or know about, but you have really dedicated a lot of your practice to neuropathy, and we're so lucky to have you. Tell people about your practice.
Well, my practice is located in Mesa, Arizona, but the treatment for neuropathy that we do is actually done at home. There's, at this time, no cure for neuropathy. There are only treatments. And I learned here about in 2015, basically, that the treatments that I was doing had a lasting effect if you stop doing it of about 6 months. But if you continue to keep doing it, it can last a lifetime. And so we've been actually advocating using a home treatment protocol since 2015. That I started treating neuropathy in 2008. Got my interest in it due to the fact that my mom suffered with it for about 32 years, had a very severe case, and ended up in a wheelchair for the last 16 years of her life. So basically, I'm kind of dedicated to what I do.
Dear to your heart.
No. But neuropathy basically is a disease process that affects the nerve endings at the skin level. Can be generally will start in the feet, sometimes in the hands, but it can actually go throughout the entire body. It's due to the fact that there's, in 90% of the cases of neuropathy, something affects the ability to get oxygen to the actual nerve endings themselves and causes those cells at the skin level to actually die off. And then they start firing on their own, giving you symptoms of numbness and tingling and burning and cold sensations and sharp shooting pains and the like. And it actually can be reversed, but it is a secondary disease. That is, it's caused by something else. And so this is the reason that the treatment needs to be ongoing, is because in most cases, we can't figure out what the cause is.
I know a lot of people are wondering, what are the symptoms? How do I know if I might be having neuropathy?
Well, primarily the first ones generally that'll pop up are numbness, some tingling in that. And this can basically is progressive, but it can take years to actually start to manifest. That it is not uncommon that I have patients that come into my office that have been suffering with it for 5-6 years, and it just has substantially gotten worse. And now they're really starting to look for some help.
Now, you said you can actually treat it at home. How is it done?
Basically, the treatment that we do at home is developed from what we actually did in our office for a number of years, but it is a way that we've shown through pre and post biopsies, we can actually increase the nerve density by a little over 400%. What I use primarily is a form of infrared light, and I know that if you go on the internet, you can find all kinds of different infrared lights and infrared units. The equivalent, it's kind of the best way that I can explain this, is not all infrared units are created equal. Most of the ones that you're going to find on the internet would be the equivalent of going to say, I'm going to ride my bicycle from Phoenix to LA, and I've decided I'm going to use my 4-year-old's trike. Most people are going to make very good headway. And that's pretty much what you're looking at, that the units that we use are actually medical grade. They are only available through doctors' offices, but it has actually gotten to the point that 98% of the patients that we've accepted for care have gotten at least a 65% reduction in their symptoms, and in most cases, a lot more than that. And it can last for life.
I got to tell you, we've gotten so many letters from people who ordered infrared systems on the internet that it did not work, that almost every one of them said it was a waste of money. But that's not what you use. Like you said, you use an industrial laser, so to say. But people got so turned off by a lot of these ads online, and I'm sure you hear that all the time in your practice.
Yeah, I get inundated because of the fact that I treat neuropathy, that I get a lot of ads for the cure of neuropathy, and for all these pills and all of these creams and these various different electrical units and different things this way. And I will tell you, I own a lot of that stuff because I want to see maybe some of these things actually do work. I just haven't found any that actually did. I learned about using infrared in 2006, and it took me 2 years to find a unit that I could actually get it to actually produce any results. When I first started treating actively in 2008, about 55% of the patients that we treated responded to what we did. We discovered the need to increase a compound in our body, which is naturally occurring, called nitric oxide, in 2011. And when we incorporated that, we went up to around 71%. That's pretty much where I hovered for the next 10 and a half years. But the new unit came out on the market in 2020. Infrared is an invisible form of light that produces heat. And most people with neuropathy lose the ability to feel heat. And so the units that were on the market, as far as how much energy these could actually produce, it was limited for fear that they could actually produce so much heat that they could actually inadvertently burn a patient and they wouldn't know it. And so a physicist from Australia developed a new type of diode, put in this unit, and basically increased the energy output by almost 4.5 times without actually producing any heat. That the units that I use produce about a 0.5 degree temperature above your skin temperature. And so that actually changed everything. 98% of my patients now, like I said, respond to what we did because of this particular unit. And it's eliminated a lot of the things that I still don't understand on why the other older units that I used didn't work. But now it's boiled down to basically their nitric oxide levels and using the correct infrared unit.
Do you use any type of supplements at all?
We do, to build up the nitric oxide. And that's another thing is that there's a lot of supplements out there to improve nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a major signaling molecule that we have in our body, naturally occurring for the dilation of blood vessels. It starts to decrease in our normal production around the age of 40. So a lot of us, by the time that we get to be in my age group in early 70s, are actually lower depleted. But basically, nitric oxide was discovered in 92. The Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded to discoverers in 98. It was called the molecule of the year. the discovery of nitric oxide is actually what led to the development of Viagra and Cialis, because erectile dysfunction is a vasodilation problem. At one time, it was thought that some of the drug companies, that if they could develop a drug to increase the production of nitric oxide systemically, it could actually be one of the best blood pressure medications in the world, because possibly the reason that we have a tendency to develop higher blood pressures as we get older is our nitric oxide levels drop. Blood vessels don't expand like they did when they were younger, and thus pressures go up. And so researchers in Texas were hired, and what they discovered was that there was a naturally occurring substance in beets. And you could just eat 2 or 3 beets out of your garden every day, and you could increase your nitric oxide levels naturally. So no pharmacological component to a beet. So the drug companies backed out of the research. And these researchers realized there are people like me that don't like beets, so they made a supplement. And they also developed a simple saliva test that I administer in my office to make sure that we are getting people's nitric oxide levels up. A lot of the supplements that are out there that you can go into the health food stores and find don't have a long enough half-life to actually be of any benefit when we're actually treating neuropathy. And a new supplement came out that actually is based off of arugula, which is a form of cabbage, has actually worked the best. And it's one that I now utilize in my practice, and has been very effective in that particular aspect.
Somewhere I read that neuropathy also disrupts sleep. Is that true?
Yeah, because of the fact that what ends up happening is that it's not uncommon that people might function throughout the course of the day, but when they lay down to go to bed, their neuropathy actually really kicks up at that time. And the reason is that particularly in the beginning stages of this, you still got normal nerve endings. You're not losing all of the nerves all at one time. And so during the day, you've got shoes and socks on, you're up on your feet, you're doing things, you're stimulating your normal nerves, and that'll override the abnormal sensation or the abnormal nerve function. But at night, when you take off your shoes and socks, you're not doing anything to stimulate those normal nerves. And so the abnormal ones become more prevalent at that time. And so numbness and tingling, sharp shooting pains become more apparent, and it can keep people awake for an extended period of time. Or wake them up in the middle of the night and make it so that they can't go back to sleep.
Since we started doing the show, every time I read about somebody fell in the shower, I think about, I'll bet you they had neuropathy, because it does cause balance problems.
That's correct. Because of those nerve endings, as they recede deeper into the tissue, they're no longer down at the sole of the foot. And so what ends up happening is we become more dependent on our depth perception. And so I know you don't have this problem, but when you close your eyes to wash your hair, that causes the people basically to need to be out, reaching out and touching, and having a grab bar or something this way, because of the fact that as soon as you lose that depth perception, that your visual acuity, your balance basically goes to heck.
I know you touched on this, but we just got a text. I just found your show today. What a great show. Dr. SARS, can neuropathy be cured?
Cured? No. Treated? Yes. But the treatment needs to be ongoing. And one of the things that I have run into over the years, and I still have this, even though I preach to my patients that they need to continue to keep doing the treatment to some degree, I still have patients that they get all better and they end up setting everything up on a shelf and go on with their life. And then they're like 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, the neuropathy starts to come back, and they're like, well, what the heck happened? And it's like, you need to keep treating it. Now, we do it intently during the healing stage. So I have my patients doing it daily, 5 to 7 days a week. But once we get back to a norm, then all we need to do is basically maybe do it 1 or 2 times a week to maintain it from that point forward, and they can actually live a neuropathy-free life.
I got to tell you this, because I do a lot of due diligence. And I was saying, we get a lot of letters, especially about your show now. And I got to tell you, what really made me excited about you, Dr. SARS, is we talked in the very beginning, and you said right up front, there's not a cure for neuropathy. We can treat it, just like you just said just now. And there are celebrities on TV doing commercials saying they can cure neuropathy forever. And I'm actually starting to get some of those letters now from people who took some magic pill and it didn't work. So
Yeah.
I was so glad you were so honest about treating versus curing.
Well, the thing is that my goal is to basically is to get people to live a neuropathy-free life. And the only way that they can do that is if they actually understand what's ending up happening. As I said, it's a secondary disease. There's over 200 known causes. We're not curing the primary one that causes it is diabetes, but we're not curing the diabetes. And in this country, a controlled diabetic has an A1C of 7, but normal is 5.5. And so basically what an A1C is measuring is how much sugar is attached to the red blood cell where oxygen should be. So that 7 means that 7% of all the receptor sites for oxygen are being taken up with sugar. But that's 1.5% more than normal. And doing that, that's going to cause some problems. And so we need to have a treatment to offset that aspect of it. And that's why this is an ongoing situation.
So what is your success rate?
Literally is 98%. Part of that's due to the fact that in the 17 years that I've done this, I've have over 5,000 patients that we've done evaluations on. I know who I can and who I can't help. And so if I can't help you, I'm not going to take you. That I make myself available by phone 7 days a week from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night because my patients are treating themselves at home. And I would much prefer the phone calls be, I've just got a question on what's going on, but I seems like I'm getting better. Instead of somebody going and yelling at me because of the fact that I took them when I knew that I couldn't help them.
And then the fact that a lot of people, like you said, they feel like they're doing better and they start, I guess, becoming lackadaisical.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason that I have an ongoing, that my treatment protocol, yes, you do it at home. There's still office visits involved once a month until we get you stabilized so that I can continue to preach to the choir that you need to continue to keep treating yourself. This is basically, a lot of this is just education, people getting to understand what is actually happening in their body and how we can actually offset those things that are happening so that we can get the neuropathy under control. But it is controllable. And I'm encouraged now in the fact that I had a patient that came in that never new patient, but they had gone to see a neurologist who was maybe in practice for 3 or 4 years. And they expressed to them that they were going to come and see me and that they knew that I used infrared. And the neurologist actually told them that a lot of people get a lot of help from that. And so it was a little different than what I have gotten in years past, where the neurologists have been telling the people that it's just a waste of time. It is a waste of time if you don't have the right infrared unit, but we've got the right one. We know what we're doing, and we do get the results that I expect.
What about, do you change dietary habits?
I try, but I mean, most people are going to do. Here's the thing that I'm going to tell you. If you're diabetic and you have an A1C of 8 or above, the first thing that we're going to do basically is to try to get your blood sugar under control. You can reach a point with high blood sugar where no matter what we do, it's not going to work. And so the first thing that we need to do is to get that A1C down. Someone that comes in with an A1C of 7.5 or less, I can help. But if we're in the 8s and that, what I do is unfortunately not going to provide the results that they're going to want, because the diabetes is going to do damage faster than I can actually use my units to actually correct it. And so we're basically just end up spinning our wheels.
What if person doesn't treat their neuropathy?
Well, depending on the cause, if it's basically, it's going to continue to get worse. It is not uncommon that you'll start to have a series of falls, and your balance will start to become a real problem. It's going to affect pretty much your day-to-day life. That I know that a lot of people are told that you're going to, with neuropathy, if you don't treat it, that you're going to end up with an amputation. It's kind of a scare tactic. And in all actuality, that's not really going to happen for the vast majority of people with neuropathy. If you're an uncontrolled diabetic, yes, okay, the chances are higher. But if you just have neuropathy from idiopathic neuropathy, chemotherapy, vitamin deficiencies and the like, the chances of you having an amputation are pretty much null. It's just not going to happen. It is just a scare tactic that some of my colleagues will use to try to get you to actually sign up for their program. I pride myself on the fact that I try to be as honest and as ethical as I possibly can be. And part of that comes from the fact that when my dad passed away, my brother and I discovered that my folks had spent $250,000 of their own money trying to find something to help my mom back in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s before I got out of school. And there really wasn't anything there. And I truly do believe that the doctor, the receptionist would look through the blinds and go, oh, they drive a nice car. And if you told my dad you could help my mom, he'd write you a check. And that's not who I am.
Yeah, and you're also left one thing out. You're so passionate about that, which I love about that with you. I want to get, this is Isaac, who's in your backyard, Mesa. Does insurance cover your treatments?
Unfortunately, no. What has happened with insurance
Figures.
I had one of my patients that went, oh, of course not, because it works.
Yeah.
The thing is that over the years, insurance has paid for a number of different treatments that were done in office that did work, but didn't last. And so it's like they'll pay for a series of treatments. People would get better. They get released from care, and 3-6 months down the road, their neuropathy started to return. They'd come back in for additional treatments, and they'd bill the insurance again, and the insurance would go, no, what we were told is that you were going to cure the neuropathy with the initial treatment. And so they'll shut it off. That in the 17 years I've been doing this, I cannot tell you how many things have come and gone as far as getting insurance to pay for it. And the problem is, and then there are some clinics out there that will advocate that they can get the insurance to pay for it. But if you actually look at your explanation of benefits and your diagnosis codes, a lot of what's been billed are not necessarily dealing with neuropathy, and it's not necessarily the neuropathy treatment. And so it's just what I do is not covered by insurance. It is out of pocket. To minimize your risk factor, I actually do offer a 6-month guarantee that if it doesn't work, I'll refund the vast majority of your money.
Wow.
Just to avoid
them get much bigger than that.
Now, here's the understanding is that realize there's very rare cases that I actually have to refund the money. So
I believe that.
But the thing is that I'm just trying to minimize the risk so people will come in and actually give it a shot. That I can help the vast majority of people with neuropathy. There's about 10% of sufferers that I can't help. But the rest of them, I actually can. And anything and everything I can possibly do to get people to understand that we can help them. They don't have to live with it, and they can actually have an enjoyable life. That's what I'm trying to do.
Dr. Star, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can call my office number. It's 480-556-1358. I'm located in Mesa, Arizona at just south of Baseline on Country Club, directly across the street from the Costco that's there. And I'll charge Costco for the plug. We answer the phone from 7 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. I see new patients on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. When it's outside of office hours, I'm the one that's actually answering the phone. And so don't be surprised and don't be alarmed. It's not that I don't have staff. It's just that I am 71 years old. I just renewed I'm not going to disappear. I just renewed my lease for another 3 years, so I'm going to be here. But but it is something that I am passionate about. This ruins a lot of people's lives, and it doesn't have to.
Well, Dr. SARS is with us every month. And Dr. SARS, I just want to tell you, I appreciate your honesty. I mostly appreciate your passion and your knowledge. I'm telling you, if you think you're suffering through neuropathy, this is the way to go. Dr. SARS, thank you so much, and we'll see you next month.
All right, Steve. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Dr. Patrick SARS. Hey, that's it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.